I'm going to start off by asking Kholoud a little bit. So tell me why you don't despair. Why you keep going?
I mentioned it before. And by the way, today is the memorial of losing our managing editor. He was killed by the regime 3 years ago. And today is the day that we lost him.
I'm sorry.
So he keeps me going on.
Mm-hmm.
The two other martyrs we lost keep me going on. My brother in detention keeps me going on. The other stories untold of the Syrian women under the war, under siege, in detention centers keep me going on.
And you also talked there, just briefly, the regime, but also the opposition as well.
Yes. Some of the opposition, the so-called opposition, they are treating us same like the regime is doing. In some places, apart from ISIS, which is very obvious to everyone that it's the evil, the number one evil in the world. In other areas, yes, they are treating us same like the regime.
I mean, obviously I'm a journalist, so I know why I think it's important, but you tell me, why do you think journalism is important? I mean, there's other things which are important. You know, that nurses are needed, doctors are needed. Why are journalists needed?
Doctors are needed to save our lives, but journalists are there to tell the world that our lives is being saved by these brave doctors. Nurses are needed, food is needed, but journalists are there just to tell the world that these people are waging a war against the war by themselves, and they are afraid of no one, that we want to tell the truth, and this is what's going on.
And did you always want to be a journalist?
Not always.
What did you want to be when you were little?
A traffic police officer.
Let me turn to Vian. Vian is last year's winner, and many of you will remember that she is an extraordinary champion of her people, the Yazidi people. Can you tell us a little bit, because I know that some of the Yazidi women have escaped, some have been saved.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. Are you still able to rescue people? Are they sometimes able to get out?
Yes, yeah. When ISIL attacked the Yazidi villages in the 2014, we had in that time 5,800 girls and women are kidnapped by ISIL. But now we can to escape about 2,100 of those women.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but how? It's not those girls can't to run away. No, we are buying them. We are buying our girls by $1,000 or $2,000 for each one. If we have money, we can buy those people from ISIL. But if we don't, no, we can.
So Natalie Nougayrède is a columnist and on the board of The Guardian, and you were executive editor of Le Monde at one point, and worked in Chechnya and many places. But, I mean, we're talking about ISIS here, or ISIL. You've seen that right there in Paris, yeah?
I think if there's one thing that must be said about the terrorist attacks in Paris is that we cannot turn a blind eye, we cannot be uninterested, unconcerned about what's going on in the Middle East and what people are suffering from there. Because for a long time, perhaps, we thought we might, be able to cut ourselves off from there and contain that crisis, this multifaceted crisis. I want to pay tribute to the women and the journalist women who describe to us the realities from these crises areas in Syria, in Iraq, because it has to be repeated. There are very few Western journalists who travel there now. It's extremely dangerous. There used to be more Western journalists in 2011, 2012, and then there were kidnappings, the violence became extreme, and in many media organizations, the decision was made simply not to send journalists to these war zones because there was too high a risk.
We know Mariana Katzarova here as the founder of Raw in War and the Anna Politkovskaya Award, but in her spare time, she lives in Ukraine. Basically, that's a forgotten war. It's a totally forgotten war, isn't it? And yet, are there still atrocities going on? Is there work for you to do?
Yes, I mean, it is a forgotten war. Very unfortunate because 3 million people continue to be suffering in Donbass, either by shelling, by both sides, by the Ukrainian army and the rebels of the Donetsk, self-proclaimed Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics, or caught between the firing lines. You know, it's how the real terrorists usually are born, by, for many years, keeping people in a ghetto, keeping them deprived of their human rights and without education. And in the end, of course, you get down the line desperate individuals that are ready to resort only to violence.
Kholoud, can we come back to Syria a little bit and tell me, does it bother you that there are no women at the Geneva peace talks? I mean, I know there's a sort of special ghetto for women, which they have, but in, the big important talks, no women. Does that matter, or does it really?
No, it really hurts that there are no women on the negotiation table. When men negotiate war, they negotiate war, not peace, because they don't care. They care all about power, arms, and surveillance. But if we have some women on the negotiation table, things will be seen from another perspective. Now things are seen only from one perspective, which is power. We don't need power, we need peace. They are negotiating power, but no one is negotiating peace.
What worries me really is there is no space for women yet again in the peace talks. The voices of women, who are the majority of the refugees, the majority of the internally displaced people in Ukraine in particular, they're not present. I mean, I was shocked. I put it immediately on my Facebook. There was this picture of the Paris talks, peace talks. There wasn't a single woman around the table discussing the Syrian peace. What kind of peace could that be?
Tell me about the cessation of hostilities. At the moment, we've got a sort of putative ceasefire in Syria. Does that make any difference? Or is it meaningful? Is it meaningless?
Let me tell you one incident. I come from Daraya, which is Damascus suburb. It has been besieged for 4 years, and the kids have been deprived of every single detail of their normal life. They have never been to school for 4 years. Now the kids had the opportunity to go play in the streets, to have fun, to smile from the bottom of their hearts. As school was reopened, teachers are teaching the schools, and the school kids have been into a party, and they sang, they danced, and they lived.
And are you optimistic that it can continue?
No.
No. Why not?
Because it's not a 100% ceasefire. The regime broke the ceasefire in many, many places.
Tell me a bit more about your journalists, because you're an editor, and your journalists. So how do they live? How do they cope? How do they get enough to eat? How do they file their copy? Tell me how it works.
They know how to survive during the very unbelievable circumstances. When there is shelling, they hold their cameras and they record. They go and document all the bad incidents committed either by the regime or other armed groups, and they face them bravely. And sometimes they have to work under pseudonyms because other armed groups are threatening them, same like the regime. So they are extremely brave. We have a reporter reporting from Raqqa, and she is amazing.
So your reporter in Raqqa, the headquarters of the Islamic State, is a woman?
Yeah.
Does that make it easier for her to operate than it would be for a man?
Kind of, yes. She does not need to go interrogate people or ask questions. People come to her and talk to her because we talk. I mean women. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So for a journalist, then, you're saying in that situation, the most extreme situation, it's an advantage to be a woman.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
That's what I always tell people, and they don't believe me.
It's an advantage to be a woman everywhere.
In every way.
Yeah.
And what do you want people in this audience or in the outside world to do? What do you want people here to do to support you, to help you?
I know every people support me. I know that. It is very important if those people are feeling with me what happened with the Yazidi. It's a very important. I need a support. I need this feeling about the people.
The feeling of solidarity.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very important because now we need a focusing again for what happened with the Yazidi, because maybe after 2 years, the people forget what happened, but it still happened. It's still we have 3,600 women are kidnapped by ISIS. Still we have 2,000 girls are need psychological helping. Still we have 420,000 Yazidi people are refugees. Still, yes, we are liberated Sinjar, but 90% of my city are destroyed, and we need to rebuild this. And something it's a very important, I need anyone to help me. We need rebuild the trust.
Okay, thank you, Vian. One more question for you, Kholoud. Just tell us what it means to you to get the Anna Politkovskaya Award.
It means a lot. We want to continue telling the world about what's going on, about the stories untold to the world. Syria is not the hub of terrorists. We are human beings, same like you. We used to have a similar life to you. We used to go to school, we used to go to universities, but we were oppressed. And we only called for our freedom. The award means to me all these things, that the work we did is not unnoticed. Everyone is, like you, recognize what we do, and you support us, your hearts with us, and we will continue because of you.
Thank you, Kholoud. Thank you.